applies to a CA or aspiring what? CAZ, isn't it? Then also, when it comes to the Companies Act, the Companies Act mostly, team, it applies to the company, isn't it? Company, and mainly the board of directors. We are more worried about the board of directors, isn't it? Then the ZimCode again, this affects directors. Then we have the King 4, directors again. So then we would add the ethics theories, team. Think about good for self, bad for self. We have got the principle, isn't it? So when as you are for ethics, team, it doesn't come as like a separate aspect. Ethics, as it comes, it can start from it's either directly or you can be triggered indirectly, isn't it? So as you are reading through the scenario, so identifying direct and indirect ethics triggers, then you need structuring high marker answers and linking governance even to issues to do with the sustainability these days, isn't it? So ethics is rarely examined as theory only. The marks are in linking the scenario fact to the ethical principle, be it a threat, be it a governance failure. What are the consequences? Isn't it? Action, evidence, and the responsible what? And the responsible honor. All right. So let's, I'm taking you through, isn't it? So, Tim, so there is the Code of Professional Ethics, which is your CPC. So there is your conceptual framework. There are threats, there are safeguards, conflict inducement, there is NOCLA, then pressure to breach principles. So NOCLA, again, that's another key thing, Tim. Then we have your King 4, which deals with all those aspects. There's your Companies Act, isn't it? What are the director's duties? Duty of care, duty of loyalty, conflict of interest. You have your Zimbabwe National Code of Conduct, isn't it? Then if you go to your CA of the future competence approach, there is your ethics, your values, your attitude, citizenship, integrated thinking, professional judgment, and sustainable value creation, isn't it? So please, exam use, do not dump all frameworks. Please choose the framework that matches trigger. So CPC for professional conduct, King 4 for governance and boards, Companies Act for legal duties, ethics theory for judgment, and ESG for sustainability related public impact, isn't it? So all these things, Tim, I'm going to share. I think I've already shared this, isn't it? So there are many theories, isn't it? So what's your mindset? Ethics question, mindset, and answer structure. So ethics in simple terms is the discipline of deciding and doing what is right, fair, transparent, and in the public interest, even where pressure, profit, fear, friendship, or personal benefit pushes the decision maker in another direction. Can you see those things, Tim? So sometimes it might not be triggered in a way we paid someone bribes. Oh, it cannot be like the CAZ. They cannot directly trigger it like CAZ vakazoita ABCD, which is contrary to the CPC. No. This is the cash flow which was prepared by the accountant. Accountant wako ndi CAZ. What I can observe, there were many errors in the preparation of those financial statements. So if there were many errors, in other words, we are saying this CAZ is not complying with what? Remember, professional competence and the due care. Confirm. Hello? So it's already an ethics trigger. So it doesn't necessarily mean kuti tikufana kuchongorwa. So ndikuti inini, you might miss those indirect triggers. So make sure you pick all those things. So in exams, ethics is triggered by what? By behavior, pressure, relationships, incentives, concealment, selective disclosure, weak oversight, public harm, or professional compromise. All those things can trigger ethics. Is it making sense? So a strong ethics answer is not a list of principles. It is a practical judgment response. What happened? Why it is wrong? Who is affected? What principle is threatened? What must be done? What evidence proved that it was done? Hello? So ethics can be directly discuss ethical concerns. It can also be hidden inside governance, audit acceptance. Hello? So good. If you remember, within your client acceptance, it can be hidden within your pre-engagement trigger, isn't it? Sustainability reporting, tax planning, valuation assumptions, procurement, bonus schemes, related parties, confidentiality, fraud, or going concern. Is it making sense, Tim? So it can come in all those factors. So mostly, what's your first step? What is your fact or your trigger? Then the question is what to write. Quote or summarize the exact scenario fact, which is your trigger, isn't it? So the finance director has instructed staff to delay recording supplier invoice. Can you see that? It's coming sort of like something for the benefit of the company. Yet, if you delay recording supplier invoices, it has got tax implications, which means you are going to understate your what? Your profits or your what? Which can affect ZIMRA. So it can be principle or framework. Link it to CPC, King 4, be it your company's act. So this threatens integrity, your objectivity, your professional behavior under the CPC. Hello? Hello? All right. So can you see those things, Tim? They are coming. So if it's a threat or ethical issue, name the threat. But the most important thing, Tim, within your CPC, all those threats are defined depending you are dealing with who. Are you dealing with a CAZ in business? Isn't it? Professional accountant in business. Your threats, they are defined on section 200.6. Isn't it? Are you dealing with a professional accountant in public practice? Those threats, again, they are defined in section 300.6. Then in general, all these threats, so that you use the appropriate threat, use an appropriate threat. Do you understand self-interest? They say it's financial or any other interest. Is it intimidation, perceived, actual threat? Is it familiarity? Isn't it? Close or having personal relationship? Is it advocacy? Is it self-review? Is it conflict, inducement, misrepresentation, or NOCLA, which is our non-compliance with laws and regulations, which is your section 360? Is if it's for a professional accountant in business and in public practice, sorry. And if it's a professional accountant in business, that's my section 260. Do you understand the NOCLA steps? Hello? So an ethical issue can trigger a NOCLA. So if it triggers NOCLA, I have to follow the NOCLA steps. Happy days. Then let's take it step by step. Then, so what's the self-interest rate? So wedding, the bonus creates a self-interest rate. And the management pressure creates intimidation. Can you see the wedding, team? Hello? And there are circumstances whereby, so team, there are instances whereby it was already breached. For example, they've paid the CAZ akatobhadhara a bribe. The CA akatoriceive mabonus akaenda for a holiday. Yet the CPC what's the issue to do with gifts? What should you do when it comes to gifts? and hospitality, isn't it? But I got to accept. So please, Panama instance, it's no longer a threat. It's a breach. There are instances where it's no longer a threat, it's now a breach. Are you following, Tim? So most students make a mistake where it's a possible or in where it's already been breached. So where it's already breached, there is no longer a threat. You simply say he breached the fundamental principle of integrity. Happy days? All right. So mostly breach usually comes if it's being triggered, especially coming from a FINAC perspective. That's usually a breach, isn't it? So when coming from a FINAC perspective, it becomes a breach. But mostly, I'm saying mostly, but understand context, yes, scenario. Then it can be consequences or impact. Explain harm to users. Is it public interest? Is it audit quality? Stakeholders, sustainability, reputation, legal compliance. So users may, get this right, the wording, users may rely on misleading performance. The board may approve wrong decisions. Then action of safeguard, you need to state the practical action. Refuse, disclose, recuse, escalate, consult, correct, document, resign, report. Can you see the wording here? So the accountant should document the instruction, refuse to process adjustment, and escalate to those charged with governance. Then with evidence or honor. So you need to close with evidence and the responsible person. So either evidence, email trail, corrected journal, or audit committee minutes and management representation, isn't it? So another important thing, always exam verbs and what the examiner expects. Identify, if they want you to identify, you are just listing concerns, triggers without long explanations, isn't it? Discuss, explain fact, your principle, implication, and recommendation. So it's one paragraph per each, what plus why plus so what plus the action. Then evaluate. So whenever they want you to evaluate, you are weighing the seriousness and whether safeguard reduce the threat. Then you have to conclude on acceptability and the residual what? Risk. Then advise.
I say, Chris.
Yes.
So I wanted to confirm something on that verb.
Yes.
Yeah, identify. Do you need to write exactly as it is in the scenario, or you can paraphrase?
You paraphrase. You can paraphrase.
Okay.
As long as you give the same meaning and context.
Okay.
Recommends. So you are providing controls or action to prevent recurrence, isn't it? So specific, implementable, isn't it? Then criticize, you are pointing out weaknesses in conduct or process. So do not merely state theory. Expose why the conduct is inappropriate. Remember, whenever you are criticizing, put out what was done wrong and why it's wrong, isn't it? So don't forget those things, isn't it? They always remain. So let's keep it practical. All right. So then we go to other issues. So the CPC framework team, if you go to your CPC, if you go to your section 110, it summarizes all these fundamental principles. Please, your section 110, this one just highlight in flag, isn't it? What's integrity? What's objectivity? What's professional competence? What's confidentiality? What's professional behavior? Which is your section 110. Then if you go to your section 111, it explains in detail what integrity entails. Then 112, it deals with objectivity. 113, professional competence. 114, it's in your CPC, isn't it? Now it deals with the confidentiality in detail. What 115 deals with professional behavior, isn't it? So the meaning in simple terms, those meanings in simple terms, Tim, they are in your section 110. That's where they summarize this in simple terms. But what are the common exam trigger to show that here it's integrity? Think about manipulated profits, selective ESG data, hidden liabilities, false certificates, dishonest tax position, isn't it? Then practical response, definitely refuse to prepare, submit misleading information, correct records, escalate documents. Then what can cause objectivity? It can be your bonus schemes, your related parties, family links, gifts, intimidation by the CEO, audit client pressure, all those things. So the practical response, remember, mostly your your safeguards. What should you do? Isn't it? Then professional competence, taking work beyond competence, isn't it? Poor review, outdated sustainability, these standards, rushed judgment. So please, so what should you do? Either get expert help, train staff, perform adequate work. Then confidentiality, so you can be sharing client info, whistleblowing dilemma, media leak, using client info for personal gain. Then keep confidential. How do you your practical response? Then it can be your professional behavior, which is your bribery, isn't it? Your tax evasion, reckless trading, greenwashing, ignoring laws, intimidation of auditors, all these things. So what should we do? Mostly, so professional behavior inowanzoabuswa ichishandiswa pasiripo. Team, so let's appreciate. So let's appreciate these things. Then the threats team. So the threats again, if you go to your section 120.6, it generalizes all the threats, isn't it? Just your simple meaning, you can get it from your section 120.6, isn't it? 120.6 to be specific, A3. Then your if it's now specific to a professional accountant in public practice, it's your section 300.6. If it's a professional accountant in business, that's your section 200.6, isn't it? Then they also, what are the typical trigger words? Like bonuses, shareholding, remember, because it's personal finance, loans, fee dependence, debt owed commission. Then if self-review, auditor prepared records, consultant audit on system, valuation performed, then audited. How about advocates? Please, advocates, that's another issue which is team. You just don't throw a threat which ndofunga ndanyanya shandisa ma self interest saka regai ndimboisawo. So it's not atite zvokunzwira titi team muexam ndinenge ndanyanya shandisa self interest ne is it relevant? So please, when to use advocates, you are defending a client's position. So for example, defending a client tax scheme, marketing shares, lobbying, isn't it? Legal dispute support. So what should you do? I've even provided the safeguard, isn't it? Then intimidation. So mostly when you are dealing with the CPC conceptual framework, so the answer engine first identify facts and the ethical issue. Do not assume. Use the words in the case. Do not assume. use the words in the case. Then 2, which means that's your trigger. So for a good example, engagement partner, spouse might be the FD of the client. So identify the affected fundamental principle and the threat. So we usually start with the threat. So this might pose a familiarity threat to which fundamental principle? Let's talk about independence. Objectivity. If I say objectivity, don't forget it's free from bias and undue influence. So that's why I pick. Then what might the explanation now link the threat, the trigger, and the fundamental principle? The engagement partner, therefore, might be sympathetic to misstatements made by the spouse. Why? Because we have a clause. So whenever I'm saying familiarity, I'm referring to the original definition, clause or personal relationship. Hello? Is it making sense? Then sometimes you have to evaluate significance in terms of materiality, public interest, seniority. It's also given, isn't it? Then how do you address the threat? So are you able to eliminate circumstance? If not, are you able to apply safeguards? If not, please, you have to decline. So only when you cannot eliminate the circumstance, when you cannot apply safeguard, that's when you decline or withdraw or refuse to be associated with misleading information. You happy days? Then document the judgment, isn't it? All right. Then a set of CPC areas that are easily triggered. I've given you here preparation and presentation of information, conflicts of interest, inducement, gifts, hospitality. It can be nuclear. It can be pressure to breach. If you see here, possible triggers. Management asks the accountant to change estimates, omit liabilities, classify expenses wrongly, or present ESG data selectively. So what's expected? So do not knowingly prepare or be associated with false misleading information. Remember your integrity. Challenge assumptions, correct records, disclose limitations. How about conflict of interest? Professional says 2 parties. Director's interest in supplier. Reviewer work. So all these things are possible CP issues. Then I just want to go to Nokla team. Quickly open your section 360 team. Section 360. Quickly open if you've got a soft copy. So if you open, let me just try to open a soft copy here as well. So if you go to your Nokla team, so I'm going to deal with the one for a professional accountant in public practice. So let me open the CICA CPC here. So I want to quickly go to section 360. So, but the one for professional accounting in business is your section 260. But I just want to go to section 360 here. So if you go to your section 360, can you see the main heading? You are responding to non-compliance with laws and regulations. So please, in an exam, fight or fraud, bribery, tax evasion, environmental breach, procurement breach, regulatory non-compliance, isn't it? So if you're a professional accountant in business, how do you respond? So responding to non-compliance with laws and regulations, that's your section 360. So if you go to your 360.9, that's your starting point, isn't it? Which is when you become aware, responsibility, when a professional becomes aware to which this section applies. So clearly states the management were receiving bribes or were doing ABCD. So how do we deal with those things? So we want to make it as practical as possible. So please, first of all, start with your trigger. What happened? What's the a nuclear issue? Specify. They were disposing maybe waste in rivers, etc. Therefore, a non-compliance with EMA regulations. They were paying bribes, etc., which is a non-compliance with anti-corruption. Happy days. So be clear, be specific, isn't it? After you've done so, the next thing you have to do, you need to obtain. So your first heading is obtaining an understanding of the matter. So how do you obtain an understanding of the matter? Remember, it's like you are investigating, isn't it? But so if you are engaged in the audit of financial statements and you become aware of that, what's the first thing you should do? You need to obtain an understanding of the matter, which includes the nature of the non-compliance or suspected non-compliance which has occurred or might occur. Then number two, so here it's like you're investigating. You need to go to the bottom of the issue, what really transpired. Then you go to 360.10. When the professional accountant now within your service, remember, something can be an issue which you are not knowledgeable about. So you apply your knowledge and expertise and exercise professional judgment. However, you are not expected to have level of knowledge of laws and regulations, isn't it? Therefore, what should you do? Isn't it? You, in other circumstances, you need to, with the permission of the client, seek guidance from, it can be their lawyers, etc., to understand, is this act really, whether an act constitutes a non-compliance and ultimately to be determined by a court or other, but you need to have an appreciation. Then another important thing, still on your, you see, depending on the nature of the significance, the professional might consult on confidential with others within the firm, a network firm. So that's the first thing, obtain an understanding of the matter. Then your 360.11, it deals with the discuss the matter. So 360.11, it's discuss the matter. So depending on the nature and significance, you can you discuss with whom. Here it's on the assumption that there is separation of control. There is the board, which is those charged with governance, isn't it? Then we have those charged with governance. Then we've got which is the board. Then we've got the management. So if maybe management, the board, if there is clear separation of control, isn't it? So you need to discuss with those charged with the governance, which is your board, isn't it? Which is appropriate level of management. Is where appropriate those charged. What is the purpose of your discussion? Are you aware about the non-compliance, isn't it? Then not only that, you also have to clearly specify to them what are the negative consequences of that, the potential consequences of the matter, isn't it? Is it fines, penalties, loss of license, etc.? Then section 360.13, that's another heading, address the matter. So the first one is obtaining an understanding. So it starts with the trigger. Then you go to obtaining an understanding of the matter. After obtaining an understanding of the matter, you discuss the matter. After you discuss the matter, you address the matter. So to address the matter, remember the auditor, you are also an advisor to the client. You can advise your client as well. So as you are advising your client, what are the key issues? In discussing the non-compliance with the management, where appropriate, the professional shall advise them, please, to take appropriate timely action if they've already not done so. In terms of what? Rectify, remediate, or mitigate the consequences, isn't it? Or deter the commission where it has not yet occurred. or disclose the matter to the appropriate authority, which is in detail. So in other words, there are instances of press conference, press release, etc. Advise your client. Withdraw a product from the market. Make those things. Maybe they are selling expired product. Can you withdraw those products from the market? Let's take that into consideration. I remember there was a certain IAC exam whereby the entity were in the business. They were selling off like ACCA, the vape. What do you call them? Those guys team. What they call which one these days here? Which one wachiputa chinenge chiri? What's the name of that? And nyaso is young. Don't go on What's the name of that? There was an exam which triggered that.
Something like,
huh?
I think she's
I'm not really
shisha.
sure.
The vape cigarettes.
Yeah, vape. Yeah.
Matrix.
Yes. Pane exam rakaya ine vape. Ndizvoka. So most students missed the fact yekuti the company before they were licensed. Ndizvoka. Vakatanga cooperate. So if you miss those things, kutotanga cooperate without a license, it's an ethical issue on its own. Mukubabate retim. So sometimes, as you are reading the context, make sure you identify the appropriate triggers. So in those circumstances, operator license itange yabuda. So after I address the matter, we go to 360.19 team. Determine whether further action is needed. So remember in section 360.13, we were advising the client, but can you try to do this? Let's do ABCD so that we correct the issues, isn't it? Then you are now doing a follow-up now. So in other words, in shona ndo amunoti muvhunzo nando. Wakuenda kunotaza kuti ndakakuti withdraw a product from the market. Takakuadvise kuti do ABCD. Zvakaitwa here. So I have to inquire from management whether they've done the actions which you request them to rectify, mitigate, etc. And assess the appropriateness of their responses. And don't forget, team, whenever you are dealing with NOCLA, it's actions, So you'll be using verbs. So we'll be using verbs. You'll be using action words. So for NOCLA team, you have to use your verbs. Discuss, inquire, use verbs, because NOCLA, we are dealing with actions, isn't it? These are actions. What should be, what can be done, what should be done. Happy days? Are you following, team? Questions? So that's 360.19. So determine whether further action is required. So determine whether further action is required. Then we go to our 360.28, which is easy, documentation. So after you've done all your steps, you have followed, isn't it? So in relation to the non-compliance or suspected non-compliance, which falls within the scope of this section, as a professional accountant, you shall document how management were applicable to those, isn't it? The course of action the professional accountant considered, the judgment made, the decisions that were taken, isn't it? So all these things are, which is your 360.28, but always remember, these are actions. So please, whenever you are responding to a NOCLA trigger, use or follow the NOCLA steps in detail. Happy? So let's follow the NOCLA steps in detail, isn't it? All those NOCLA steps, so that we give a complete solution point. Happy days. Questions? So proceed. So that's your NOCLA, isn't it? Then we got your King 4 and your ZimCode, isn't it? So for your King 4 and your ZimCode, it's just the King 4. We adopted our ZimCode from the King 3 mainly. That's what I have picked. So good governance is not a checklist. It is ethical and effective leadership that produces ethical culture, good performance, effective control, and legitimacy, isn't it? So within your King 4, what's important, what's crucial, I've observed of late, Tim, let me show you something again. Let me try to open a King 4. So most students, they don't understand. There was a question which was clearly specific, Tim. Have you observed that your King 4 is spread, though we now have the King 5, etc., isn't it? Your principles, Tim, they are split, if you observe here. The first principles, Tim, so they might trigger it like in this way. Let me show you something. So there are those which relates to leadership, ethics, and corporate citizenship, Tim, which is your principle 1, where the governing board should lead ethically and effectively. It's under leadership, ethics, and corporate citizenship. Then we go to principle 2, it's still under the same head, which is your governing board should govern ethics of organization in a way that supports the establishment of an ethical culture. Then we have principle 3, which deals with responsible corporate citizenship. So it's leadership, ethics, and citizenship, isn't it? Then we go to your principle 4, please. If you go to principle 4, they fall under strategy, performance, and reporting, which is your principle 4 and your principle 5. So they might trigger what are your ethical issues in terms of strategy, performance, and reporting. Something chitra. So which is your principle 4, isn't it? Then, and your principle what? 5. Can you see this team? Not team, this is so marking for that. Someone now. In case then
Chris makubreaka or network yangu.
I can't even hear him.
Vachanzwika. Chris asukundwai.
I think I've been slightly booted out. I've been slightly booted out. Hello?
Ndapedzera mamba principle 3.
Principle 3.
Mm.
All right. So,
Hey, Chris, we can't hear you.
Varikaise varipo kana kudzinja ndisina network.
Kana ngabhutwa out network yacho inenge warwisa apa tikuda kubata.
Saka yakurwisa isusu.
Network iri kutorwa nesi.
Pakashata.
Hi team, can you hear me now? I think I'm back. I've just switched the network. Hello.
I say, Chris.
Yeah, all right, fine. Let's proceed. So I think I was facing network challenges. So let's proceed. So you can see my screen, isn't it? So that's principle governing structures, isn't it? Then we go to the ones which deal with governance of risk. So they might just trigger the issues to do with governance of risk team. So if you see here, your principle I want to show you governance functional areas. So here we deal with the risk governance, which is your principle what? 11, isn't it? So your principle 11, risk management. So that's the risk to do with the technology. Please, it's given there. Then there is also the issue to do with compliance with laws and regulations. You see, yeah, up to your principle what? So can you see this tip? That governance of risk, no matter issues here, government should govern risk, isn't it? Then if you got your principle 12, how should you govern technology and information? So it's still governance of risk. Then we got to your principle 13, governing compliance with applicable laws and adopted non-binding rules. Why these all things affect risk? Because if you fail to do this, you might lose your what? Your license, penalties, reputational damages, isn't it? Then we go to Your principle 14, remuneration governance. It's a risk. If you fail to remunerate your workers fairly, responsibly, and transparent, it affects your motivation. It affects your being a good corporate citizen. Evidence. Then we have the ones which it deals with the audits now. So if you see here, your assurance is still under risk, isn't it? So then we have your 16, 17, which deals with this one, which is a heading for stakeholders, isn't it? And you see, stakeholder relationship, which is your 16, 17 in detail. So you have an understanding, you have a better understanding in case they can just trigger governance of risk. Which principles am I more focused on? Please, it's there. So in your it's given. Then I'm going to share today all your IFRS cheat notes. They are complete now. So by tonight, make sure munwese unengwani your IFRS cheat notes. So let's go back to that King 4. That's almost the same way as your ZimCode, isn't it? So ethical leadership, organization ethics, so they are putting possible triggers, isn't it? Think about ethical leadership. Board management must act with integrity, competence. CEO manipulates reports. Directors ignore conflict. Management intimidates staff. How about organizational ethics? No code of ethics. No whistleblowing. That's your principle too. How about responsible corporate citizenship? What are the possible triggers? Environmental breaches, unsafe product, employee abuse, tax irresponsibility, community harm. How about strategy and performance? How about composition? What are the effects? Dominant founder, no independent directors, conflicts in audit committee, lack of ESG skills, all those things. Can you see? I've summarized them in detail here. Then you got your ZimCode, National Code on Corporate Governance. What is key for me, what's important, the major differences I picked between the ZimCode and the other, they are mainly to do with number one, in terms of the proportion, in terms of the proportion of the other one, King 4 simply says the majority should be independent. But when it comes to ZimCode, it says 60%. Please, they are specific. Then when it comes to board evaluation, in terms of the King 4, it says after 2 years. But the ZimCode, it says annually. So those things, some of the major differences between, isn't it? So mostly Zimbabwe government answers strongly when it combines the King 4 language, ZimCode principles, and Companies Act duties. Why? Because you shall observe it has got the Companies Act, it also incorporates the King 4 principles. So that's when, then when it comes to Companies Act, they've got what you call the major, which I call the universal, which touches on the heart of the duties of directors, isn't it? So legal ethics point, ethics is broader than law, but law gives minimum duties. So in a corporate governance questions, directors' duties convert ethical concerns into legal accountability. So what are the main issues? So mostly your section 54, please, duty of care, business judgment rule. And I'm already sharing with you careless decisions are unethical when they harm the company or stakeholders. Section 55, duty of loyalty. Within the duty of loyalty, there are many things here. Never to abuse one's position, never to use business asset for personal benefit, always do things, protect the entity. Isn't never to harm the entity in any way, please. Section 57, 56 is conflict of interest. Then 57, it's a duty to disclose. And within the duty to disclose, there are A to F. You need to understand things which should be done. So in some circumstances now, how they test, they can ask you, there might be a conflict of interest, yes. But Tim, when can a contract be regarded invalid because of failure to disclose? So you need to understand all these steps which should be performed by someone who has conflict of interest. So not going to in a conflict of interest, but in the satisfy my duties are per section 57 team. Not going to pin them contract. Mapabat, if Kanandaka disclosure, Kanandaka ndisina participate in the meeting when the decision was being made, etc. If I meet those conditions, so sometimes they'll ask you, was the contract valid? So when they are saying, is it valid? Did the director meet all the disclosure requirements? Think pani question and the validity. Happy days? Questions? Questions? Wow. Shaikwa kwema questions. Kuti tipurire ko. Fine. Let's proceed. So, it can be your section 57, then your section 58 remedies for conflict of interest. There is your section 67, false statements and oath. Your section 68, reckless, grossly negligent conduct. Then section 69, accounting or falsification of records. Then section 72 and 73, please, there is what you call beneficial ownership, isn't it? So in the past, what you call nominees, the beneficial owner. Who is the beneficial? Varying audit. These days, what's required by RBZ for unmanned laundering? For unmanned laundering. Anyone in audit? What do you perform before you audit a client? And if you are now carrying all those anti-money laundering, etc. So make sure you have an appreciation and understanding of those things so that you are well versed with those things. So the answering technique, identify the director or officer conduct from the scenario. State the legal duty affected. Is it K? Loyout. Explain why the conduct is harmful to the entity. Is it members? Is it creditors? Is it your regulators or stakeholders? Recommend practical governance action. Is it disclosure? Is it recusal? Is it board approval? And you have to close with evidence. Which evidence? Is it board minutes? Declaration register? Resolution, legal advice? So close with the most appropriate and relevant aspects so that you have a complete solution point. Then we have other ethics theories from your good for self, then also to what you call the stakeholder impact. So why theories matter? So ethical theories help to move beyond this is wrong to a reasoned conclusion, please. So they are especially useful when the case has no clear rule or when two values compete, such as confidentiality versus public interest. So what should you do, isn't it? So let's start with the ethics triangle, which is your good for self. So it's good for self, good for others, bad for others, bad for self, isn't it? Or good for all. So a balanced decision should not only benefit the decision maker, it should also be fair to affected parties and acceptable to society, public interest. So what questions you have to ask? Who benefits? Who is harmed? And is the outcome defensible publicly? So exam application, for example, a bonus-driven manipulation is good for management, only bad for users, and bad for public what? Trust, something like that. Then we've got many theories there. I've included there's the virtue ethics here, which focus on character, honesty. So
Check
if you remember, from the biblical perspective, the virtuous woman, isn't it? The biblical perspective, a virtuous woman. Hello? Hello? Hi, Tim. As I'm wearing a Bible. All right. Wearing a Bible, 80 ara we can come from. But mostly Zimbabwe, everyone calls themselves Christians. Hello? Which verse in the Bible? All right. So it's taken from, it's like from that perspective. But from that perspective, Tim, so here, please, these things, you just need to have a general appreciation of these things. Is it making sense? As you get in the exam, you have a general appreciation of other, that's why I'm calling them other ethical, isn't it? So a virtuous woman from a biblical perspective is not merely a woman who behaves well outwardly. She's a woman whose character, decisions, relationship, work ethics, speech, stewardship, influence are guided by the fear of God, wisdom, integrity, compassion, discipline, and moral excellence, isn't it? So if you go to your Proverbs 31, isn't it? But, and remember, it now links from the biblical perspective, it links it to women like Ruth, your Esther, your Deborah, your Mary, your Abigail, and your Lydia, isn't it? So a virtuous woman is simply a woman whose life demonstrates godly character, ethical conduct, responsible stewardship. So wisdom in decision making and positive influence over your family, your workplace, your community, and society, isn't it? But hello. So that's why the Bible says, who can find a virtuous woman? For her price is above what? Rubies. So there are many basic principles which come out from that. She's rare, she's valuable, she's not measured by physical beauty, she's not measured by wealth, status, or popularity, but by the inner moral strength, isn't it? That's what the Bible talks about. So within that, if we link it to ethics, it brings in integrity, doing what is right, even when no one is watching. It brings in wisdom, making sound decisions based on truth and consequences, isn't it? Faithfulness, being dependable and trustworthy. Diligence, working responsibly and avoiding laziness, isn't it? It brings compassion, caring for others and not being selfish. Accountability, accepting responsibility for one's actions. Fear of God, recognizing a higher moral authority, isn't it? So that's the principle, how you can link. So how do you link it to ethics? What is right and wrong? Happy? So if you take it from the biblical perspective, morality is not based only on feelings, culture, your personal benefit, or majority opinion. It is anchored in God's character, isn't it? So a virtuous woman, therefore, does not ask only, will this benefit me? She asks, is this right before God? Is this honest? Will this harm others? Can I defend these decisions openly? Does this reflect a godly character? You see how we should link it now. Then there is issue of trustworthiness. can be trusted with what? Relationships, money, confidential information, responsibilities, family matters, work assignments, leadership influence, spiritual matters. So how do you link that to ethics? Your trustworthiness, that's your principle of integrity, isn't it? She does good, not harm. All those things, this shows consistency in moral conduct, isn't it? So, but there are many theories, justice or fairness, right-based ethics. So please, apo mozoverengawo apa. Ndakuisirai padhuze handiti. Hello?
Hi, Secret.
Mm.
Right, ndobvunza pa good for self here.
Mm.
Two ma questions andinawo. Question yekutanga ndeyekuti pa good for self tino conclude here kana tapa ma different facets ema sides acho. Do
All
we
right.
conclude? Then
All
number
right.
2,
Uh,
my questions are good for self. Sometimes sometimes you're never taught in it. So question in way in the ethical concerns. Can we apply good for self or any other
yes.
theory pa question here or in front of to it direct kuti
All right. So,
good for self?
So it depends whether the examiner directly triggers another. For example, tina CAZ to aspiring, notozoti CPC, unzwisisa. So isusu tatokuudza kuti CAZ was doing A, B, C, D. Obvious. As much as fine an element is good for self-paid, but there is a direct ukubabata ethic principles yatitori in detail iri syllabus ukubabata. Though iri syllabus, but it's not directly linked to a particular like a module or ukubabata. So if it's directly linked to a particular aspect of you, ndotanga kanechiri direct. But pane circumstances ekuti ndikushaya kuti looking for here ECPC here, is it COP, is it what? And the question is silent. No, pekuti my first primary thing I can start with good for self. If it's not clear. Obvious.
Yes, mabatika Secret. Then nye conclude like any question
All right.
conclude.
So at the end of the day, ndofanirwa kuzoisa something chiri appropriate. Ndizvoka. But before ndasvika ikoko, so simple meaning ye good for self principle is simply ask, what do I gain from this decision? So a person applying this principle, will I benefit financially? Will I protect my job? Will I avoid blame? Will I gain promotion? Will I protect my reputation? Will I gain favor with powerful people? Will I avoid conflict? Isn't it? So the problem is that what is good for self may not always be ethically right. Saka, upabata of you. Not to your conclusion. So the good for self principle is usually triggered where someone acts mainly to protect or benefit themselves. My example, a finance manager hiding errors to protect their bonus. A director withhold bad news to protect reputation. An employee accept benefits maybe to gain personal benefit. A board member supports a decision because it benefits their company. So please check this. Someone acts mainly to protect or benefit themselves. So the person may be thinking this helps me, but ethics asks a deeper question. Even if it helps me, is it right? Is it fair? Is it honest? Is it legal? Is it in public interest? So good for self is not always wrong, but it becomes unethical when personal benefits overrides moral duty. Obviously, not to conclude the way, is it necessary to give a conclusion? Just okay. So when good for self can be acceptable, it can be acceptable where a person's benefit does not harm others and does not breach ethical duties. So, for example, Professional studies had to pass exams and improve their career. And this is good for self, but it is also ethical because it involves diligence, competence, self-improvement. Or let's say an employee refused to sign a false report because they want to protect their professional reputation. This benefits them, but it is also ethical because it supports integrity. I'm not sure it makes sense. And so if you are studying hard to pass your exam and improve your career, so it's good for self. Ngatitoti employer akunyima leave, but uda kupasa my exam. I'm not going to conclude. So when good for self becomes dangerous, it becomes dangerous when a person chooses personal benefit over honest, over fairness, over public interest, over your professional duty. Think of your accountability, independence. For example, finance director hides my losses to protect their performance bonus. So this is good for self, but unethical because it misleads users. I mean, I shall make a sense of you.
Nah, Zanzibar say, Grace. Thank you.
Shall make a sense. So we can conclude now. And then also, let's be careful for good for self and conflict of interest, team. A good for self sometimes can create conflicts of interest. So in your wedding, please make sure a conflict of interest when a person interest competes with their duty to act fairly, objectively, and in the best interest of the organization or public, isn't it? So, for example, if a board member is involved in awarding a contract to a company owned by their spouse, board member to him may think it's good for my family, but ethically, there is a conflict because their personal interest may influence the decision. So correct ethical response here, I should disclose the interest. This one, recuse myself from the decision, allow independent evaluation, document the decision, and ensure the organization receives value for money. I mean, I shall make a sense. Then in corporate governance, good for self is dangerous because leaders may use power for personal benefit. Like my directors awarding themselves excessive remuneration. Get this right. How about other employees? How about the company, other stakeholders? Are you still able to pay your debtors? So there are certain questions. I mean, those who have come across those questions. Don't use your CPC. Don't use your corporate governance. Pana kambosangana na iri. Question yekuti inotokuti usashandise CPC. Usashandise. Hello? Taurai nini team? Amusati masangani question akadaro here. Hello? Handini ndakakuti zvinezvi itaiwo muchingovhurawo mapepa nemasolutions here team. Mukukanganwa. Musakanganwa. All right. So please, there are many principles here. So I'm not going to do them all, but I've just shared. So how to use the good for self. So all of you, yes, I also put it in detail. Identify the benefits to the actors, bonuses, promotion, keeping job. Then conclusion wording. The action mainly benefits management personally because it preserves bonuses and hides poor performance. Can you see that of you? Then good for others again. Identify impact on shareholders, lenders, employees, etc. But you conclude the action harms users because they rely on incomplete or misleading information. Good for all or public interest. Assess public trust, sustainability rule. It is not good for all because it does ABCD. Then you have a balanced conclusion, isn't it? So it's good for self, good for others. So, but please, you can see you include also why it's not, isn't it? If it's affecting others, no particular bad for others. Then we've got sustainability now. These days we talk about ESG. So ESG ethics, sustainability without ethics becomes marketing. Ethical, so ESG is like using resources by this generation, but without affecting that the future generation should benefit from the same resources. Nova ESG. So your ESG is split into three. There is your environmental, your social, and your governance, isn't it? So can you see those things, Tim, which are detailed here? So when talking about environmental, truthful environmental claims, pollution compliance, climate risk, think about your waste resource use, then indirect carbon neutral, zero waste, illegal discharge, missing environmental provisions, etc. But we have not yet launched it in detail, but it's now being triggered. Then what's greenwashing? Like publishing something with no proof, with vague claims, hidden trade-off, false label, irrelevant claim, or selective KPI. Then what's your sustainability reporting ethics checklist? I've put the checklist here. Is the claim accurate, integrity, and verifiability? Is it within the scope defined? Prevents misleading information, isn't it? So I just wanted to cover the indirect trigger banks, isn't it? So like here in financial reporting, I think I once mentioned it, like aggressive estimates, delayed impairment. There is impairment, but you want to delay it. Premature revenue, omitted provisions, going concern optimism. So what's the ethical issue? It affects your integrity, your objectivity. So the specific framework which you should use, audit acceptance, client is poor integrity, fees unpaid, there is intimidation, scope limitation, non-compliance, but you proceed to accept the client. Please, sometimes it might not come directly. Then tax, artificial tax scheme, evasion, concealment, aggressive advice, non-disclosure to ZIMRA. So those who went through the barista question paper, confirm those questions were being triggered. Those who went through the barista question for tax. All right. And I think the client wanted even advice, isn't it? Then we go to procurement, connected supply, gifts. So those things might not be directly triggered, isn't it? Then when it comes to sustainability, how about human resource? How about IT data? Please, IT data is important. Cyber breach, privacy violation, manipulated system logs, AI misuse, especially AI misuse team. Tunongotora ma-financial statements ecompany yesono akanda ayo AI hausikumboziva kuti. So you should be a responsible user team. Understand what are the negative implications, all those things. And so again, these are ethical issues in terms of strategy, growth at the expense of safety, compliance environment. In terms of management, KPI gaming, unrealistic budgets, manipulated variant explanations, isn't it? Then here I also gave model layouts and practical scenarios, team. So how do you deal with this? Each paragraph should have like this fact from the case, principle. Why does it matter? Plus the practical response. Avoid textbook dumping. Happy days. So here I gave to my small scenario. A direct awards contract, a related supply. What's the issue? What's the framework? What's the impact? What's the action? What's the evidence? Isn't it? Then I put also in ESG reporting claims. Then there's another auditor pressure to ignore client environment. Hello? So I'm just now rushing just to show you. So the finance manager manipulates focus to meet covenants. Then confidentiality versus public harm. So please, please, please read the required first. If it says ethics, use CPC and ethical theory. If it says governance, use King 4 ZimCode. If it says sustainability, it says advice close with practical what? Steps. Then ethics red flags. Please, can you see all the red flags here? So then high quality conclusions. Then my first final memory jog. Is it effect, principle, threat, impact, action, evidence? So please, how do you word your solution? Then I've also included your where do you get these things from in detail. Happy? Ndine maslides angu andoda kupedzisa of the training I have tomorrow, team. So, but I think very soon also moita mchicheka FINAC before Marara, all the FINAC cheat notes aning apo. Before Marara all my FINAC cheat notes. Please, kana paino topic ya muri kuona isipo, kindly advise, and kindly advise. Kana paine amne maono. All right. Africa yakudominate. Egypt leading Belgium 1-0. Ngatirudzirowa. Tapedza Barcelona takurowa. Yeah. All right. Good night, team. I will share this recording on YouTube. This one I'm definitely going to put it on YouTube.